This video will save you a lot of money if you're buying property in Lagos. Either you're buying land or you're buying house in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria. This video is absolutely going to save you a lot of money. So you need to understand that before you pay for that property, there are a few things that you need to find out. And this is one of the major mistakes that a lot of persons make, especially clients in diaspora, because they are not here and some of them don't understand. For those that understand, now not being present is not an excuse because somebody can do that on your behalf. There are professionals that actually handle such and do that on your behalf. But many people don't know. They tend not to attend to it, and in return, they fall for scam because they tend to pay for that property, and by the end of the day, you hear situations like the government coming to take that property. Now, every property in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria, every land is owned by the government. I know that you've heard this a lot, but it's been released to some certain set of people, and the government can release the property to you in the place of C of O, in the place of accession, in the place of so other things. But there are some places that no matter how much developed that place is, the government is not willing to release those places. And so they have plans for those places. And you need to understand that. So every land has a coordinate, what we call a coordinate. And with that coordinate, I can find out what the property is meant for if I go to Land Bureau of any state. So you want to buy property in Lagos, the first thing you want to find out is the status of that land. I always employ my client to always look for a professional in the field. And when I say professional, people that understand property purchase or property dealings. One of them is the surveyor. If you want to buy land, for example, the surveyor's responsibility for you is to help you find out the status of that land. So when I say the status of that land, is this land free? There's what we call the government acquisition, and then there's what we call free acquisition. Government acquisition simply means that the government has planned for that place. So it can be 20 years, it can be 30, it can be 50 years. Current government might not be willing to carry out that project. Maybe the place has been set out for maybe hospital, police station, any government project. So the government might not be willing to attend to that at the moment. Any government can come in at any time. So you hear people tell you, don't worry, we can remove it. It's not possible. Let me be honest with you. That's why you see situations like houses being demolished. You see developers saying that they can find their way through it. Whatever property, as for me myself, it's one of my core values. Whatever property that is not free, it's one of our practice. Sorry, whatever property that is not free, we don't get ourselves involved in it. As long as we know that that property is not free. So there is what we call the government acquisition. Don't get yourself involved in any property that is government acquisition. You want to look for, if that property is not C of O, I want to look for properties that are free acquisitions. Free acquisitions means that you can register your interest in that property. You can carry on with the C of O of that property. That's if you're buying a property that is not already C of O. Number two thing that you want to check is, are you able to take possession of that property? Now, many people buy into an estate platforms. There are several beautiful companies, beautiful real estate companies that are selling projects, and many people buy into it. But I always advise my clients, can you take possession of your property? So how do I mean by possession? Can you do your fencing immediately? Can you do the documentation of that property to convert it to your name? Because many of you absolutely don't know that, and you think that you just buy and then you leave. So as much as it can be safe because you're in an estate, I always advise that you take physical possession. And that sometimes might be more expensive even than the price of the land that you are buying. So if you're buying a property anywhere, make sure that before you make that payment, you can take possession by your fencing, and you can also do your documentation, having the documentation in your name. That's very important. Then number three is, if it's a C of O property, please do well to obtain a governor's consent. Now, why do I have to say this? I've seen a lot of persons say, oh, I bought this property is C of O, I bought this property is C of O. But the interesting thing is that many people don't know that C of O can even put you in serious trouble. So how do I mean by that? Now, let's assume that I bought a property, I'm selling a property to you, or Mr. A is selling a property to Mr. B, and the property is C of O in Mr. A's name. Mr. A is transferring the right of ownership, the right of interest to you, which is the buyer, Mr. B. But the thing is this, as long as that property is still in Mr. A's name, you haven't registered your interest with the government. You have to make sure that you take that document, your deed of assignment, to the government and do what we call a governor's consent. That means that you are transferring the interest from Mr. A now to you. You are informing the government that this property now belongs to me. You get? Because if you don't do that, there are consequences. So Mr. A, the property is still in his name, but it is C of O, it's safe, right? But Mr. A is owing a bank, for example, and the bank is seizing Mr. A's property. As much as Mr. A has sold that property to you and he had done transfer by you signing the deed of assignment, he had done that to you. The bank still has the right from the court to seize that property from you. Why? Because the property is still in Mr. A's name. No matter how long he has sold to you, the property is still in his name. So if you're buying a C of O project, I would advise you to quickly register your interest with the government by transferring the ownership, which is called the governor's consent. I want to believe that I've been able to help you with this free information. So before you buy that land, make sure that these are in check. There are a few things that I'm still going to be sharing with you, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a wonderful time ahead.